Hello everyone, my name is Wojciech Waśniewski and you're listening to the Participation Coaching podcast, where I try to explore effective non-performance coaching. So how do we coach beginner, junior and recreational players? My guest is a junior golf coach superstar, James Hong, the director of instruction at Harbor Links, based in Port Washington, New York, USA. He's running widely successful junior programs, both throughout the school year and during the summer months, alongside a team of 4 coaches at the club. James has created an environment where every junior is catered for, from a complete beginner up to very elite juniors walking towards college scholarship. James is very active on social media, always willing to share his views, tips, drills, activities and games with all coaches. And this interview is no different. James drops many knowledge bombs through the myriad of stories he's sharing throughout the interview. Some things we discuss is James' background as a sports coach and an elite athlete and a golf coach. The structure of his programs at Harbor Links, which include the Futures Club, PAR program, Birdie program, Eagle program, Elite program, 6 to 9 summer camps, 10 to 16 summer camps, and advanced summer programs. And that's a lot, and James explains every single one of them. How progression through the various programs work in his academy, the results of the offerings. We talk about private and group instruction, communication and use of language with both children and adults, as well as marketing and communication strategies. I hope you enjoyed this episode, as it's full of little gems and amazing stories. Let's get into it. Where are you based, and how did you get started in golf, and most importantly, how did you start coaching juniors?
Sure, no problem. I'm based over here at Harbor Links Golf Course, which is in Port Washington, New York. It's out on Long Island. I'm the director of instruction there. I've been here. This will be my 15th year here. So it's been a long ride at this golf course, and it's been a lot of fun. Very challenging, but in a good way. And you asked me how I kind of started in this. It's weird. I was thinking about this the last few days, and I guess even from a little child when I was playing sports, I think I just had a natural coach in me, so to speak. My father was a college professor, and I know that my parents were always telling me they would like me to be a teacher or something along that track. So that was always in my blood, I feel. I remember stories of playing games, Little League or whatever, and I enjoyed being the catcher because I could see the whole field. And back in those days, we didn't have the internet or anything like that. So we always had to go to the library or look for videos or something to do research. So I was never interested in the stories that athletes would tell, unless they were talking about their training. I was much more interested in hearing what coaches would say on how they would train people. And that was just something that just caught on to me from an early age. And I remember helping out coaches in high school with their teams. My high school's girls soccer coach would ask me, can you help us out, do things for the team, like being a manager and whatnot. And I just enjoyed helping him with his practices. And that's just something that just seemed to catch on to me. And I think that's just carried through in my whole life. And I would play other sports. And as I got older, I even was a college coach for another sport for 2 colleges. So this just seemed to be something that's a natural characteristic for me.
Did you ever follow like the competitive sport path? Oh, you did actually. You did fencing, am I right?
Yep, I did fencing, and that was something. It was very interesting. I was one of those guys that would just always sit next to the coaches when they were talking to each other. And what are they talking about? What are they teaching? What are the reasons why they're teaching what they're doing? And hearing the debates. And that was always interesting. And one of the interesting things about fencing is that a lot of the stuff that they teach, the footwork, is in golf now. It's a big thing. Ground reaction forces, how to use the ground more for power. Well, they've been doing that for decades, centuries. So back in whenever it was, the 80s or whatnot, they were talking about ground reaction forces, how to use your feet better for this, how to create more vertical force, how to create more shear force. They didn't use the word forces, but so I just carried that over. And actually, the way fencing is taught and coached, and the way the schools are run, are actually how I run golf schools today. They just carry straight over.
How is that different to like normal golf coaching? Is it different?
It's actually not that different, because the way individual lessons are given, it's technique. It's how that technique is transferred out into actual play. Obviously, the playing field is different, and the competition is a little different because with golf, it's more you versus the golf course in the situations you're encompassing, or you're meeting. But in fencing, it's you against the other person. So the other thing that really helped me with that is the fact that I always had coaches that taught me how to observe the tendencies, the nuances of the other player, so that you could use it to your advantage and to their disadvantage. And on top of that, also, one of my coaches was very big on don't try to be something that you're not. Find out what you're really good at and try to be the best at that. So that was a philosophy that I would carry over. So I think that works well in today's age, where it seems to be don't try to look like Tiger Woods or Ernie Els. Just find out what's your natural, what you seem to be good at, and work on that, as well as if you do have some shortcomings, try to fix those, but don't think you have to look like a certain thing. And, going back to fencing, your eyes were trained. Everything was about training your eyes and what to do, what to see, what to feel. And the other thing that was, I think, for me helpful was the fact that I wasn't like a lot of other people where I could afford getting 1, 2, 3 lessons a week. I had to scrounge around for money for lessons. My parents, which in hindsight was really good of them to do this, is they told me, if you want the lessons, if you really want it that bad, you'll find a way. So I would have to find a way to pay for my lessons, get a job or something like that. And they instilled that in me. And so there was this sense of I have to earn everything, because I can't afford to have 3 lessons. I'm scrounging around to put together the money for one. And the coaches saw that, and I think they respected that. So they would kind of let me in and show me what they were doing, because they would see I would stand off to the side and watch them give lessons. And then I would try and mimic what they were doing. So I was kind of like stealing their lessons. But they appreciated it. They saw it. They liked the questions. They saw that I wasn't just somebody asking what's 1 + 1. I was asking some difficult questions.
So when did junior golf enter the image? When did you start coaching golf?
I started coaching golf probably about, I would say it's going back about 20, 22 years now. And it was funny, just like everything else, I just seemed to fall into it. In terms of teaching, I was working at a local driving range that's within walking distance of my house. And I've grown up in the same house, so it's a driving range that I would go to as a kid as well, just pounding balls. And I met the head instructor there, and we hit it. It's like within 5 minutes we became best friends. We were the same age, and we just hit it off perfect. And he knew I was interested in golf and stuff, so he would say to me, and he knew that I did stuff like fixing clubs, regripping, and whatnot. And remember, this is going back 20 years. So he would say, well, why don't you just come and work here on the weekends, and you can do things like reshafting broken clubs or regripping clubs and stuff. And in return, I get to hit free balls. So I was like, sure, no problem. And I took that up. And next thing you know, I would be coming in on a weeknight after work to do a couple of grips here and there, fix a couple of clubs. Next thing you know, I was hanging out there all the time. And next thing you know, the pro shop manager goes, you seem to know a lot about clubs. You think you'd be good at selling them? Sure, okay. So all of a sudden I was hired not just to do club repairs and regripping, but to be in the pro shop. And next thing you know, working 2 days a week, 3 days a week suddenly turned into 5 days a week. And that was kind of like how I started to really get into the business. And then we were doing this special where if you bought a driver, you got a free 15-minute lesson. If you bought a set of clubs or a set of woods, and I don't know if people are going to remember, but back in those days, when you bought a set of woods, it was a driver 3-wood, 5-wood. You would buy all of that at once. And so if you bought those, then you would get a free half-hour lesson. Well, the problem it was great for sales in the pro shop, but the problem with that is that if the lessons were going to the instructors there, they weren't getting paid for it. It was literally a free lesson. So they obviously didn't want to do it. So the head instructor, as I mentioned, who's a good friend of mine, he said, well, James seems to be pretty good at this kind of stuff. Why don't you just let him give the free lessons? So I was like, sure, no problem. I'd love to. And again, another reason for me to coach. And I would do it. And one night we were going out to dinner and he was laughing because he said, guys were coming in, girls were coming in and signing up for lessons with you, but you're not a teacher. So what are we going to do about that? And I was like, I don't know. So he kind of started taking me under his wing and showing me a couple of things here and there. And this range was part of Family Golf Center's Golden Bear Golf Center. So a spot opened up in one of their other ranges up in Westchester, which is nearby here, about 20 minutes away. And they offered me a position of being a manager / pro shop manager / teacher. So I said, sure, I'll take it. I went up there and they had a huge teaching staff of, I think, about 6 or 7 guys. And it was, I think it was 5 men, 2 women. And I told them right off the bat, I'm not here to take your lessons away. And they appreciated that. And I said, is there anything that you guys and you women don't want to do? And the first thing that came out of their mouths were, yeah, we do these junior clinics. So I said, all right, I'll do them. No problem. And that was kind of the start of it.
So that brings us to, well, I guess fast forward a few years to Harbor Links. So let's talk about what you guys offer, because you're the head of instruction at
Right.
Harbor Links, right? So what's the offerings for juniors there right now, let's say?
Well, we offer programs from ages 4 to 16 years old. And the first program we offer is called the Futures Club. It's a program for 4 to 6-year-olds. It's a 1-hour class that we offer on Saturdays. We offer 2 classes on Saturdays and 1 class on Sundays. And like I said, it's for 4 to 6-year-olds. And what we basically do, it's very TPI based, Titleist Performance Institute. So the first 20, 30 minutes is doing a lot of exercises that focus on improving their coordination skills, getting them a little bit more athletic, speed development, because a lot of times we forget we might be standing there talking to a little child like 4 years old, and we assume they know what their right hand and their left hand is. And sometimes we find out that they're still struggling with that and getting to be more coordinated, especially in this day and age where everyone's got an iPad in their hands.
Yep.
And they're not really doing a lot of physical activity anymore. So one of the things that we see a lot of is, okay, I want you to move your left foot over here, and you could see there's a 2 or 3 second pause where they're, what's my left foot? And they're looking at you and they're moving some other part of their body because they're not sure if they're right or wrong. So that was the foundation of this class. And initially what happens if for instructors out there, if you're going to start a program like this, you're going to get parents that are going to say things like, well, when are they going to hit a golf ball? Why aren't you teaching them golf? And whenever that happened, I would pull their child aside, and it's not in an embarrassing manner. And I would just say, your child needs to just develop coordination better. So I would say, hey, Susan, can you skip from here to there? And then they would skip, and you can clearly see that they're skipping in an awkward manner because they're still trying to figure it out, how to move their body. And what I'll say to the parent is you know what skipping is, and you see what your child's skipping looks like. And all we're trying to do is improve on those motor patterns, those motor skills, because the golf swing is more complicated than that motion that they did there. So if they can't do that, how are they going to swing a golf club? And that you could see the light bulb going on. 99% of the time, the parents are, yeah, that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And what's nice about it is we're telling the parents, get your kids to play in the backyard, have them skipping, jumping, doing things. And you see that they're doing that because the kids will come back the next week and all of a sudden they're experts at skipping. Did you practice week? Yeah, I was skipping in the backyard all day. So that's good. The 1% where they still argue with you, the reality is that you probably are going to be happier. And this is the reality of it, that if I learned this from the TPI, Dr. Greg Rose, saying, I'm sure there's other junior programs in the area that you'll be very happy with. And they'll go and they'll find something that they're happy with, and you're happy that you don't have to deal with that headache anymore, because that will be the person who's constantly questioning what your motives are. There's a difference between people that are questioning you because they want to be better and you want to be better versus saying, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. And so it's a good way to figure out when you're working with kids as they're developing, who are the ones where you know you're going to have to kind of draw a line in the sand and be very firm with, and others that are very supportive of their children. So, I just gave you a long-winded thing about the 4 to 6 year old program, but so like I said, that the first 20, 30 minutes is exercises, coordination skills, and then the second half hour is we introduce one or two things. So it might be, let's say, putting and chipping, and then there's about 10 minutes of instruction, basic instruction, showing the kids what they're doing, and then we play a game that focuses on that skill, and so that's how we reinforce it. So, for instance, if we're doing putting, and it might be a speed thing that they're working on, this is how we do speed. It might be putting a ball into a circle. After they do that for about 10 minutes, then we'll play a game with them. Okay, we're going to play this game, and that game is going to focus on speed control. So what happens is when the parents are there to pick them up and we drop them off, we say, what did we work on today, kids? Speed. What game did we play? We played the hula hoop game. Okay. And so you remember what to do? Oh, so the parents are aware of what we're doing as well. And the kids are going back saying, yeah, the game was really fun. Can we play that next week? Sure, no problem. So that's that. We have programs called in the PAR program, which is in the spring, the summer, and the fall. And what they are is in the spring and the fall, they're 6-week programs, and they're for total beginners. And it's an introductory program. The first three weeks are basic parts of learning the game, rules of golf, how to hold the club, short game, and setting them up in basic situations and teaching them how to play the shots, not just learn the shots, but play them. And then what happens is from the third week to the last week, they're introduced to the golf course, very similar to Operation 36. And we start them off from very short, about anywhere from 25 to 50 yards, have them hit onto the green and putt it out. We do it in groups. So just giving them a baseline score. So if one kid got a 4, awesome. If another kid got a 9, awesome. No problem. That's your number. And what you're trying to do is what do you think you need to do to improve on that? And the kids are very aware of these things. Oh, I got on in 2 shots, but I putted 7 times. Okay, so what do you think you need to do? Well, I need to work on my putting. Okay, how was the first putt? Wow, it was actually really good. I always get it within 3 feet of the hole. So that means you got 6 putts from 3 feet and in to get it in the hole. So maybe you should be working on those little putts. So they're very aware of what they should be doing. We lead them by the hand so that they become more aware of what they want to do. That we're trying to make them independent, so to speak.
What age would that be for?
That would be for 6-year-olds on up into 16. So what happens is within the groups, they're divided up within their age category. So we wouldn't have a 6-year-old with a 16-year-old. We'd have 6, 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds together, and then 14, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds together as well. And in the summertime, we have week-long programs. We run it every week of the summer. We have a program for 6 to 9-year-olds, and that runs Tuesday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 12:30. And for the older kids, 10 to 16-year-olds, we have another program that runs Monday to Friday, and that one is 8:30 to 12:30. And again, those are for beginners, beginner intermediates, casual golfers. It's a good summer program. What's nice about it is the first couple of days are on the range and they're practicing things. Very similar format. We teach them a skill, and then we play games that reinforce that skill, and then we do competitions that reinforce that skill, and then we move on to something else. And we also serve lunch. And in the afternoons, we have a program for the advanced kids as well. So they come around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and they stay till about 6, 6:30. And of course, since they're more advanced, it's skills development, mental coaching, and on-course play.
Mm.
So yeah, we pretty much offer a lot of stuff there.
Right. Would everyone who signs up to any of the programs, would they have to go through the PAR program?
If they're beginners, you're right. What's nice about our programs is the majority of the kids that kind of work their way through each level started from a PAR program. So we have kids in our programs now that are probably in their 5th year, 6th year with us, 7th year with us, which I think is a real testament to what we've been offering here. We do get kids coming in that maybe are, let's say, 12 years old, and they've been, say, taking lessons for a couple of years or going to other camps or other programs and stuff. Or they were in our program and started out just as casual golfers, and then all of a sudden they got hit by the bug, and now they really like it. So they want to take it more seriously. So we get those kids, and basically what we do is offer a skills assessment. Takes about 30 minutes, and just seeing overall where their skill level is, and then seeing where that would fit in our levels, in our programs.
Sure. So you'd say that the majority of kids go through all the levels, or is it more flexible than that?
It's they go through the ones that start at PAR, obviously are going to work through all the levels, but we have kids coming in now that are right away going into the next level of program, which would be the Birdie program. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned the PAR programs for beginners, and the Birdie program is for what we call beginner intermediate, which is they have learned everything, and if you ask them, how do you chip, they can explain how to chip, they can set up properly, but their execution might still be an issue. Okay. So they don't, let's say they have problems with low point control or something like that, but they know. That's beginner intermediate. And then the intermediate golfer who is, they are comfortable on the course, they know what to do, they can get out there, but like I said, it might be a par 3 and they're getting a 7. Mm-hmm. So it's just refining their skills development. And then we have the Eagle program, which is they're competitive. They're kind of just starting to be competitive. So they might be playing high school golf for the first time, or this might be their first year of playing junior tournaments like U.S. Kids Golf tournaments. And then we have the Elite program, which is these are the serious kids that are probably looking to hopefully maybe get a college scholarship, or it helps them to get into college. Sure. So we do get kids who are showing up and they get assessed, and they can go right away into the Birdie program. And sometimes you can tell they're not even going to be in the Birdie program for very long. They just need a little bit more coaching, a little bit more refinement and skills, and they might jump right up into the Eagle program.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like you've got some offerings for everyone. So what's the scope of it? Like, how many kids attend weekly sessions?
The amount of kids, we limit it to 7 per instructor. So and that's for the PAR program and the Birdie program. And what we do, they sign up for it, and we have 5 instructors on staff. So we can get as many as 35 kids in one day program if we need to. Mm-hmm. And what's great about it is all 5 of our teachers, including myself, we all enjoy teaching juniors. So it's not like we have to pull teeth doing this. Everyone, it's like if I went into a staff meeting and said, I need a teacher for Tuesday's Birdie program, I'll have 4 hands coming up in a heartbeat. Mm. So they like doing it. And in fact, when we do our summer programs, basically the adults are shut out of private lessons because everyone is doing the junior camps. So you can't get a private lesson between anytime opening in the morning, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. You're not going to get a lesson. You can get a lesson at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. You can get a lesson at 1, but you won't get anything in between.
Do you know the rough number of, let's say, the overall number of kids in the academy?
Right now, I know that in 2016 we had 366 kids come to our summer programs alone. Mm.
Wow.
And if you include repeats, 497.
Hmm.
So we were getting kids coming. We actually had 2 kids come all 10 weeks of the summer, which is just absolutely sick.
Yeah.
But you know what was interesting about it for parents actually is that I asked the parents what was the reason behind this. Obviously, the kid loves golf. Is that, and I think it's a testament to us because all the parents kept saying is he just kept saying he wanted to come another week. He wanted to come another week. He really loved it.
Hmm.
So we kept making it fun for him. And the other thing is that the reality of this day and age is apparently our paying for 10 weeks of summer camp is cheaper than paying for daycare or paying for a nanny.
That's interesting.
So yeah, it was a little thing. I was kind of taken aback when they told me about that. So
that might be a nice selling point for next summer.
Exactly. That's why I put it in there. It might be a selling point for someone's program. But yeah, 497. So we were having a lot of repeats throughout the summer.
Mm-hmm. So how does the progression work between the levels? Because I remember hearing you say somewhere, I think in your presentation for the Met PGA, a nice thing that if the kids want to get competitive, they'll tell you. Like there's no need to push them somewhere, especially for the parents. But I wonder let's say how strict are you in, let's say, going from birdie to the Eagle program, or do you have any specific skill tests, or is it based on, I don't know, handicap? How does it work?
It's based on skill tests, and part of what we do here is it's sort of like a funnel system. So traditionally, what's happened is, and I'm sure everyone's experienced this: a child shows up for a private lesson, and sometimes they're really into it, and sometimes you could tell they're there against their will, or they don't mind being there for the lesson, but they're just not into it. They're just kind of doing it because they're trying it, and it's like anything else. We're going to our piano lesson next, and then we're going to do tennis, and then we're going to do football.
Yep.
So what ends up happening is that the enthusiasm level isn't as high. So it's kind of, they start asking you questions. How much longer do we have? What time does this lesson end? Right. And it's a little difficult for the teacher as well, because you're trying to find a way to be enthusiastic, and you feel like you're under the gun to perform for the player as well as their parents. So what I did is I created a program where basically, like I said, the PAR program, they're coming in, they're seeing other kids, they're having fun, they're bonding with the other kids, they're making friends. And as they progress through the system, they start to become more interested, more involved. So what'll happen is, instead of you having to beg them to take lessons, they're going to turn around and say, they're going to understand that if I'm going to get better at this, I need a little bit more personal attention. Mm-hmm. So Mom, Dad, can I get a lesson? So now the parents are saying to you, boy, little Johnny he's really loving it. Thank you so much. He really loves you, and he loves what you're doing with him and stuff. And we were wondering if you have any time next week for a lesson, because he was saying he was having a lot of problems with his driver. Sure, no problem. Let me take a look at my schedule. How's Thursday at 4 p.m.? Awesome. Put us in there. We'll be there. And now you're filling up your lesson schedule. And on top of that, this child is running from the car to come to the lesson because they want to be there. They want to work with you on their driver. Mm-hmm. And on top of it, they know you already. You've already established a relationship with them. So they're coming in high-fiving. You're going, hey, how's it going? How was school today? Let's come on over here. I got some stuff set up. Plus, the teacher is enthusiastic. They know Johnny's coming at 4, and you already have an idea of what you want to work on with that child. So you're going to set up your teaching area in preparation. So there's just this trickle-down effect. The teacher's more motivated. The student is more motivated. The parents are happy. It's a win-win-win situation. So that's been what happened. So now as they move through each level, it might be something like where they're in the birdie program and they're coming to you, let's say, once a month for a lesson, or once every 6 weeks, something like that. Well, then as they progress through, it becomes, obviously you're going to help them with the more personal attention. So now the parents are going to see that, yeah, it's a little bit more money, but now it's worth it. The investment is worth it. So they're going to come to you and say, or you might turn around and say, and don't be afraid to be aggressive with this, is like, well, I think that instead of coming once a month, maybe coming every other week might be better, since he seems to be improving a lot with the combination of the PAR program or the birdie program. By the way, these birdie programs and everything, they're supervised practices. So you're saying the combination of private lessons with the supervised practices is really helping your child. So now they're coming every other week. And then as they become more and more serious, it becomes every week. Or you might do something where they're going to come 2 or 3 days in a row and then and then just come to the practices for the rest of the month. Mm-hmm. So you have all of this flexibility in terms of scheduling the students. So that's the purpose behind the funnel down effect of all of these programs. So that by the time you get a really serious player, they know what they need. All right, I'm going to come to you twice this week, once next week, and then I have a tournament over here in this place. So we'll have one tune-up session before I go, and then I'll see you in 2 weeks after that, because I'm going to be playing these 3 tournaments, so I won't have time, and then we'll set it up again.
Sure. Would you say that in general, like your main goals for you as a coach and for the academy as a whole, would they be, let's say, participation focused or more performance focused? So are you looking at the overall numbers of kids you're just getting through, or are you interested in let's say, in the results and getting them competitive?
Right. I actually see it as both. I see it as 2 separate entities.
Sure.
So everything from, let's say, the Futures Club PAR birdie program is that just trying to get people interested in the game, because a lot of these kids, they're going out and playing with their parents, or they're playing with their grandparents. Hey, we're going to visit grandpa and grandpa in Florida in March. So they're going to be so happy to be able to play golf with you. And you're going to be happy to be playing with them. And then it might also be a couple of kids that are going to, they're thinking about playing high school golf, but they also know they're not going to be the number 1, number 2 player on the team. They're just happy that they're going to be on a team. Mm-hmm. So that's one side of it, the perform. And also what happens, like Harbor Links is a public facility, but also what you're doing is you're laying the foundation through these kids for private clubs, increasing their membership, because as they play golf, they're like, I think I'm going to look for a membership at a local course. I really like that club. Let me go take a look. So, or they might just stay public. So these kids are going to be coming and playing. I mean, the thing that I love now, being there for so long, is I'm seeing kids coming back and playing 3 or 4 rounds a year at Harbor Links that were in our junior programs 10 years ago. And they're coming up, hey, James, they're like, hey, I'm getting married next year, and when my kid is born, I hope you're still here, because I'm going to bring him here. And that, that's an awesome feeling. And I was just sending a letter off to, I was emailing back and forth with a college coach the other day about one of my students, and I said, hey, do you remember so and so? It was a student of mine that he was recruiting, and I said, she just got married last year. So it's like, wow, okay. But and then so the other side of it is the advanced program, and that it is a little bit not a little bit, it is much more serious. So there is the understanding that it's not always going to be playful, because you do have to treat it sometimes like it's a job. That, hey, you know what, when you were in the birdie program and you were doing that putting thing, it was okay to be a little bit off in this and a little bit off in that. Well, you know what? Now it's for real, because everything is about your score, and it's not good enough anymore. You have to do better. But as the kids progress through each level, they understand that, because they're being trained in that way. Mm-hmm. And so the parents are understanding that too. So it's not like they go from one level to the next, and all of a sudden it's a shock to their system. Wow, you used to be so nice, James. Now you're really mean. It's like they understand it. They'll look at you, or they'll look at me, and they go like, yeah, I see what you mean now. I get it now. So I say, yeah, right. Remember? Yeah. Okay. So everything is it's so like the question you were asking. I think it's 2 different things.
Sure. I imagine like not many other clubs or courses in your area like have over 300 kids every summer. So what do you think differentiates your program, and how is it, let's say, better to the to what's already on the market?
I think what makes it easier for us is the fact that we are public versus the private clubs.
Okay.
In our area, we do have a lot of high-end private clubs. So obviously, the access to the golf course is somewhat limited for juniors. Those are just the membership restrictions that they have. And yesterday, in fact, I just spoke in front of our section with regards to junior golf, and this was one of the topics that was discussed, is that if you want your program to not just survive but really grow, is you do have to speak to your membership committee about having more times available for your junior program to be out there on the golf course. Mm-hmm. So that is something that is I brought up, that it's got to be about 50-50 at the very least now. I brought it up a few times this morning on social media, where I said the days of 95% of junior golf instruction being swing related, and you have to earn your right to be on the golf course, that those days are dead. Yep. So things like Operation 36, getting them on the golf course, U.S. Kids Golf, and over here in the States, USA Junior Golf Team, just getting the kids more skills oriented towards course play is very important. So that's one of the advantages that we have, because we have an 18-hole championship course as well as a 9-hole executive course. Mm-hmm. So there's always access to the course available to us. That's a big deal. As I mentioned, we're public, so anybody can come and sign up. And the other thing is we are easily accessible. There's kids can, believe it or not, kids can come from Manhattan if they want to, because the Long Island Railroad comes directly from Midtown Manhattan, Penn Station, and the last stop on the train is 5 minutes from our golf course.
That's pretty cool.
Right. So adults can come take a lesson if they wanted, for instance, or join one of our programs. And it's very easily accessible, as I mentioned. So those are some of the advantages that we have.
Were there some things that you tried in the academy in the past, but like you had to drop them, they didn't work?
Yes. Good question. A couple of things was, one of them definitely, and is that we tend to see kids wanting to progress really quickly through the system. And the parents get very enthusiastic. Boy, I can't believe how quickly Catherine has evolved. You know, boy, she's gotten really good in 6 months. Well, you're not going to go from the PART program to the elite program in 6 months. Mm-hmm. It's going to take time. There's just no two ways about it. It doesn't matter what sport it is. So it's kind of tempering not only the parents' enthusiasm and the child's enthusiasm about progress, but yours as well. So you have to resist the temptation to graduate them mm-hmm. really quickly, because at some point they're going to hit they're going to hit a roadblock. They're going to hit that wall. And when they hit that wall and they're not prepared for it, that's a devastating effect psychologically. Because what you'll see is someone who 3 months ago you thought was going to love this game, they're hooked, and then all of a sudden they don't want to be there. And I think that's the same with education in general, where kids show early fortitude and mental aptitude in a grade, so they skip grades, and the next thing you know, they hit a certain grade, and now they're just not prepared for it. They're too young. They don't know. They're not set up to deal with the difficulties. So that's something that you want to do as well. Just like take your time. Yeah, I know you're doing really well. I know you're doing better than others, but I just want to make sure that these skills are really set in you before you can move on to the next level. So that doesn't mean they're going to stay in that level for 3 years, but you just want to kind of temper that enthusiasm. That's definitely important. Let's see here. Other things. I think that what we have to be careful with in terms of teaching juniors, and again, as you asked, this is something that I've fallen into several times. I catch myself doing this, is that we tend to overload with information. And this isn't for the beginners. This is when you're getting players that kind of know what they're doing. They're pretty adept on the golf course, and all of a sudden you start talking to them, and I think it's subconscious with us instructors. It's not a conscious thing. It's that we start teaching them like they're tour players or future tour players, and we have to be careful of that. And sometimes I get these looks on they get these looks on their faces to me like, where did all of this come from? And it happens to us because I could be standing there with a child and saying, okay, I just want you to feel like you're pushing into your left foot, right? I just want you to feel like you're pushing it. Or I want you to feel like your feet are trying to rip the grass into two, trying to rip the ground up. And that works. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, I'm going to be saying to that same child, so you can really feel how that force is going straight down into the ground like an arrow. So that vector is going right into the ground. And then what's happening is you're really torquing that trail foot. You want to... I'm really saying the same thing. It's like, and what happens sometimes is I could see it. I'm like, did you just understand a word I said? And even then, they don't want to say no because they're afraid they're going to disappoint you. And they're kind of like, yeah. And I said, and I'll be like, you didn't understand a word, did you? And then they
That's
smile. Funny. No, I don't know what you said.
That's funny.
Remember, our job is to make it as simple as possible. So even with adults, I still try to talk to them like they're 5. And I know one of the things in our business, when we've always been told when talking to kids, is talk to kids on their level. Don't talk to kids like they're adults. Well, the same goes true for adults in that direction. It's don't talk to adults like they're adults. Talk to adults like they're children. And then if it turns out that they can understand the information, then you can make your language a little bit more complex. Like it's the example I just gave, talking to a child, it could just as easily have been a 35-year-old woman.
Yep.
Right? So it works both ways, definitely.
What would be let's say the basic marketing strategies for you? Is that all based on word of mouth?
I think for us, majority of it is word of mouth, and goes back to what you were saying, you were asking me earlier, because we are easily accessible and because we are public. Part of our growth has been word of mouth, where we'll get kids in and they have a good time, and then they're showing up again a couple of weeks later in a summer program, and they brought a friend with them. And then next thing you know, they brought another friend, and then the next year, the 3 of them are back, and they brought 2 more kids. And all we're hearing from the parents is, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so said your program's so much fun. Their kids love it. And so they told us that we should sign our child up as well. And so what I noticed as a trend is that when you're starting to get groups together of 4, 5, 6 kids, is then what we started doing was offering what we call private summer camps. And what that is basically is if you have 5 or 6 kids already in your group, we'll put the group together for you. So really what it is, it's the same thing as the summer camp, but we're making it easier for them to register. Mm-hmm. So again, any kind of service that you can provide to the families, to the parents, that makes things simpler for them, they're going to appreciate that, especially in the summertime. Because remember, if they're after school ends, they're thinking about what are we going to do with our kids every single week of the summer. So one week it's going to be golf. One week it's going to be soccer. One week it's going to be tennis. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. So they're filling out 5 application forms per child. Mm-hmm. So if you can make that sign up easier for them, where, oh yeah, would you like to put together a private group for your kids? Can you do that? Sure. All right. All you have to do is just put all of the kids, just put them all together. Give me all of their names. We'll reserve their names. And then what happens that way, so they don't feel like they have to rush their application forms, the process in. They know they've already got a time and a spot. So all you're doing is just reminding them, hey, Mrs. Johnson, I just need Mrs. Smith's application, or can you give me Mrs. Smith's contact information so I can let her know that we still need her forms in? And that's just one of those little services. It's so small, and yet on the other end, on the parent side, it's very appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of us, what you can do is maybe that's something that's a little add-on benefit. So let's say for a summer program, you're charging $2.99 for the week. Well, what you're saying to them is, well, for $3.50, we can put together a private group for you if we have an instructor available. Oh, can you do that? Sure, no problem. They're not sitting there going like, gee, I don't know, that $51.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I don't know. They're just seeing it's like, wait, you mean you can make this easier for me? So yes, no problem. So that's something for instructors to think about.
It sort of brings us into something I wanted to touch. Again, I heard you saying summer, like a nice tip for junior coaches. Let's say someone who wants to start coaching juniors is that we shouldn't start with the sheets, but start with two very simple questions: what do the parents want, and what is fun for kids? And I think like this role for the parents' role in this, both selling and as well as the coaching process, is crucial, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I think that when you're talking about junior golf, and actually any junior sport, is number one, you're going to be price sensitive to the parents, and you should be. I think one of the advantages that we have, and this is something that I'll definitely pat myself on the back for, is I'm a parent as well. I have two sons. I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old. So every time we do something, the first thing I think of is, if I were a parent and my kids are signing up for this, what do I want? And that's really important. So if you're talking about pricing, I'm looking at it as, how far would I go before I would say it's really good, but I'm not going to go there? Mm-hmm. And so I'm always looking at it as a parent. And then I'll even ask my sons, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you think that's something that would be fun if you were in the program? And they would tell me, yeah, that's pretty good. Or, no, that sounds really stupid. Okay. So what'll happen is if they say it's really stupid, I might still do it. And then ask the kids, was that really stupid? And they were like, it was okay. All right. So what'll happen is that's out. Or what I prefer to do is, if it's not working, instead of getting rid of it, it's, what is it that's not working, and can it eventually lead to something that's similar but even better?
Mm-hmm. What would be an example of that? Do you mean like specific games, or?
Yeah, it'd be games or formats of things. One of the things that was interesting is what we do now pretty regularly was because one of the kids had mentioned it in passing, and that was that when in our summer camps, for instance, we go out on the golf course Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays for the big kids. And so what happened was, we were originally going out only Thursdays and Fridays. And on Thursday and Fridays, what we were doing is we were playing like little team competitions. So if we had 4 instructors, then each instructor had their team of 6, 7 kids. And so they would just immediately go out and play. And then we would say, all right, James's team came in last place today, so we're going to have to step it up tomorrow. And so one of the kids said, gee, it'd be nice if we can go out on the golf course and kind of get a practice round in first and see what it looks like. And I heard him going like, yeah. And I sat there in my office going, he's got a really good point there. A lot of these kids are beginners, and we're kind of throwing them right out there all of a sudden. Mm. So what we started planning right away, literally the next week, was that Wednesday class. The first 2 hours, we're going to continue just kind of working on the things that we've been working on. And then we're going to take a snack break, and then we're all going to go out onto the golf course and just kind of, get a feel for it. We don't have, this is the tee box. All right, everyone, you got a ball and a wedge. Okay, let's all just drop a ball here about 10 yards off the green. We're going to chip onto the green. What does everyone see? There's a lot of slope there, right? So which way do you see this? So we're teaching them like that. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is kind of introducing them to the golf course. And now what happens when we go out on Thursday morning, right off the first tee, is they're seeing it now and they're going like, oh yeah, hey, remember when you chipped 5 times from over there? That was really funny yesterday. Ha ha ha. So they're kind of taking the pressure is off of them to perform. So that was something that like I said, we did it literally starting the next week.
Okay. Is there something that we didn't talk about that you think we should have? Something you want to add for junior coaches?
I think that kind of going along the last question that you asked was that you want to make it worth it for the parents. That's not to say you should be. Hey, I'm going to charge $1,000 a week, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to do all of these fabulous things for the kids. It's not that. It's that if you're going to be charging, let's say, $199 for a monthly program, well, what are you offering? And is it of value to the parents? Is it of value to the children? And is it something that you can provide? What are you going to be doing? Are you providing skills development? Are you providing on-course development? And if you are, then you don't have to worry about the money side of it. Like I said, word of mouth will happen. You'll get a good reputation of having this wonderful program that all the parents want to see is that their kids are enjoying it. They're getting back in the car at pickup time with a smile on their face. They're telling stories about how it was a lot of fun and what they did, because we all experience this when the kids get in. So how was it today? It was good. What'd you do? Not much. Yeah. And what happened? Oh, we hit balls. Oh, did you learn anything? Yeah, putting. So if they're getting in the car and saying things like, yeah, it was really funny, so and so, James did this, and then he kind of like he messed up with this, and so we were all laughing and everything. Then all of a sudden he did this stuff with water balloons, and it was really cool and like that. So now the parents are like, oh, and so that's something. One of the things that I like to do is when the parents are all there for pickup, and I'm bringing all the kids to them, is I'll gather all the kids around, and as they're getting ready to leave, the parents are getting ready. I say, no one leaves yet. Hold on a second. And they all turn around, they look at me, and I say, all right, everyone, what did we work on today? And then the kids are raising their hand, and so, Bob, what did we work on today? We worked on putting. Exactly. All right, everyone, what in putting specifically did we work on today? Susan raises her hand. Susan, speed, right. And what was the name of the game that we played after we did it? And so what happens, what you're doing is not only are you reinforcing the learning as they leave, what you worked on, but you're telling the parents, you're showing the parents, this is what we did. So the parents are walking back in the car. Now, if they ask the same questions, well, that answer of, oh, we just putted, it doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
Parents know that it wasn't just putting, that they did stuff. And it gives them a reason to have more conversation in the car ride home, at dinner time. So the family time is a little bit better. So that's really important. The other thing I do is V1 videos. So what'll happen is I'll take videos of what we're doing in the programs, and I'll shoot them off to the parents. So they get a video summary of what we were working on. And within that summary, I'll tell the parents, so this is what we did today for chipping. And so this is what I'd like you to continue practicing on your own. So they have a little library, so to speak, of practice drills.
That's neat. Using V1 for that, right?
Yep.
Okay. James, thank you very much. It's been awesome. Thank you very much for coming on to doing the interview.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope I'm helping people out here.
Where can people find you, or how can get in touch with you if they want?
Well, okay. My email address is JHON as in Nancy J Hong at Palmer Golf, like Arnold Palmer.com. So that's my email address. The website address is www.harborlinks.com. So you could see the golf course that I'm at and what we offer, the programs that I offer. And it's not rocket science there. So if for a lot of you instructors out there, if you're looking for sort of something that you can copy, feel free to take a look at that and see if any of the things that we're offering here can help you out at your course or facility. So those are two things. And phone number, 516-767-4818. And that's in New York, Long Island.
Awesome. And obviously you're quite active on Twitter and on Facebook. It's James Hong Golf on Twitter, is it?
Yep, James Hong Golf on Twitter. And also on Instagram, same thing, James Hong Golf. And then on Facebook, it's James Hong.
That's not surprising.
I mean, I have a business page on Facebook too. It's James Hong Golf. Duh. Yeah, it's the same, James Hong Golf. So you can check any one of those out.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
This is Wojciech again. Thanks for listening. If you don't want to miss any future episodes in this junior series, subscribe to the podcast or sign up to the mailing list. You can find all the links on ParticipationCoaching.com/subscribe. If you have any suggestions on future guests or just any feedback on the podcast in general, feel free to shoot me an email at hi@ParticipationCoaching.com. Thanks for listening again, and I'll hear you next time. Music in this episode came from bensound.com.